Welcome everyone. My name is Raghav. This is Jesse, Rebecca and Emma. We are NCAUS22FRMonash and we're here to present our very first project, Circle. We're facing a textile waste crisis here in Australia. 800 million kilos of textile waste is dumped in Australian landfills every single year. Only 7% of this waste is recycled, making it by far the worst waste stream in terms of recovery rate. Looking at the average Australian, we consume 27 kilos of textiles and discard 23 kilos every single year. As you can see, this problem needs fixing urgently. While this crisis affects us all, the hardest hit group by far are our Australian charities. Inundated with unsellable donations, Australian charity shops spend over $18 million every single year getting rid of textiles that can no longer be sold.
Sellers have indicated there are no appropriate solutions to deal with unusable donations.
Charitable Recyclers Australia say that the biggest issue they face is receiving textiles at the end of their life.
Vinnie's has indicated that this problem is even greater in regional charity shops. Now let's talk a little bit about our journey. Getting to the root of the problem was not a simple Google search away. I was talking to over 75 stakeholders from charity shops to government representatives in over 800 hours of discovery research. We realised that creating more upcycling solutions and sustainable brands is simply not enough. We cannot keep investing our time in creating short-term solutions for a long-term problem. So after these interviews, we came up with 3 key insights. Number 1, the increasing low-quality clothing created by fast fashion is exacerbating the textile waste issue. Number 2, current upcycling and recycling solutions are low impact and uneconomical. And finally, besides exporting, charity shops have no alternative for truly end-of-life textiles.
Another key insight we realised is that our current textile recovery system in Australia has a huge gap. All of our current efforts are focused on extending product life, which is giving clothes and textiles another home. While this is incredibly important, it means at the moment we have no appropriate solution to deal with textiles once they get to the end of their life and can no longer be used. This presents a huge problem, as these textiles are destined to end up in landfill, rotting away, releasing harmful greenhouse gas emissions and toxins until they're finally broken down more than 200 years later.
Therefore, the only way we can make meaningful change is not by extending the life of textiles, but by giving the textiles a new purpose. We investigated numerous innovative solutions and generated a knowledge bank, assessing each solution on 4 key criteria: volume, value, stage of research, and feasibility. We were looking for a high-value product that was feasible and at a late stage of research.
So from this, our solution is producing activated carbon fibre from end-of-life textiles. So what is activated carbon fibre? Activated carbon fibre, or ACF, is a fibrous sheet material that has cutting-edge properties that allows it to draw out unwanted pollutants and toxins from water catchments and air. This means that it is an extremely valuable product in a diverse range of applications, such as wastewater treatment, air and gas cleaning, personal protective clothing, and medical masks.
So what is the process? The end-of-life cotton waste undergoes a pre-soaking treatment before it is carbonised and activated. It is then rinsed and dried, with ACF being the final product. We chose cotton waste as our input, as it currently accounts for 1/3 of all textile waste in Australia, therefore maximising the positive impact we will have. So where will we use the ACF?
We decided to use the ACF in wastewater treatment. So what is wastewater treatment? Wastewater treatment is a process that converts wastewater into water so that it can be safely discharged back into the environment. Current wastewater treatments include chemical or sludge treatments, and these rely heavily on excess chemicals and emit high greenhouse emissions. Our product mitigates all of this by using a naturally sourced alternative, cotton waste. By using cotton waste as a precursor in ACF, we're able to increase its ability to draw out pollutants 40-fold. This not only makes it a more efficient solution, but a cost-effective and sustainable one.
So why should we care about the wastewater solution? The wastewater solution is one that frequently gets swept under the rug, as we aren't consciously aware of what happens when our water goes down the drain or flushes down the toilet. Globally, 80% of our water goes unrecycled, resulting in contaminated and unsafe wastewater in our oceans and rivers. This leads to nearly 1.8 billion people worldwide whose primary source of drinking water comes from contaminated wastewater. The World Health Organization estimates that every single year 3.5 million people die as a result of wastewater-related illness, such as polio or typhoid. Take, for instance, the small Australian town of Jalmadungaburu in Australia. This small Western Australian and rural town is home to 60 residents who use a UV filtration system to deal with their wastewater catchments. When the water gets too cloudy, the UV system no longer works and they're forced to turn to methods such as boiling to get access to safe, clean drinking water. A problem like theirs is perfect for a solution like ours, as we provide a low-fidelity, low-cost solution to enable them access to clean and safe drinking water. I'll now pass it on to Raghav to talk about our impact in the greater community.
Circle will deliver huge impact by helping charity shops advance their social aims in two main ways. Firstly, by alleviating the financial burden of end-of-life textiles, we enable charity shops to focus their financial resources on what matters most to them, which is helping Australia's most vulnerable and disadvantaged. Reason number two, we assist charities in achieving their sustainability objectives. We provide them with a sustainable alternative to disposing of their end-of-life textiles by diverting it away from landfill. In fact, our impact extends beyond just Australian charities. Our solution can be used in small towns such as Jalmadungaburu in treating their wastewater problem. Our solution is cheap, accessible, and in the future will be mass-produced, allowing it to be used in towns that don't have access to the same wastewater treatment that we enjoy in cities. This will deliver huge health and environmental benefits to these rural communities. I'll now pass it on to Jesse to talk about our business model.
So how do we make our money? We can process 1 kilogram of textile waste into 300 grams of activated carbon fibre. Our market research tells us that a 300-gram activated carbon fibre filtration system can sell on the market from anywhere between $30 to $100. To generate this process, it costs us $12 in input costs and $14 in labour costs for every kilogram of textile that we recycle. This leaves us with a net margin of $4 for every kilogram of every gram of textile that we recycle. Whilst this margin may seem small to begin with, we're confident that it proves our business model can be profitable, and as we scale up our solution, we're sure we can improve our profit margins and improve our profitability. So why are we so excited about the ACF market in general? Well, as we talked about today, the wastewater issue is growing, and the ACF treatment of wastewater is a growing business case. The ACF market is also making it cheaper and cheaper to produce ACF. Finally, there's more and more growing use cases for ACF in the greater community, meaning that we have confidence that we can grow and scale our business to beyond wastewater treatment. By 2027, the APAC AFC market is set to hit $350 million US, and at that same time, the US and global market is set to hit $1.5 billion US.
So what's our environmental impact? For every 1 kilogram of textile waste produced, 13 kilograms of carbon dioxide is polluted into the environment. That means that for every plain cotton t-shirt that is recycled, we can divert 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide. If we scale up our service by 1% of the yearly total textile waste products, we can divert more than 100 million kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. So where does Circle fit into all of this? Organisations focus on redistributing textiles after they've been used, not from their own fault, but simply because they lack the infrastructure to completely recycle in Australia. Companies that do recycle in Australia tend to keep textiles within the industry, for example, turning textiles into yarn. Instead, Circle leverages its ability to extract value from textiles from other industries so that we can ultimately deliver a differentiated solution.
We are currently engaging with researchers. We've been granted access to Monash University equipment to finalise our prototype and have verbal commitment from select Solvo stores to source the textile waste. In the coming year, we seek to run a product trial before officially launching Circle. Since the start of this presentation, 50,000 t-shirts have been put into Australian landfill. In a country where the fast fashion industry is expected to grow 4% in 2022 alone, it is becoming increasingly vital that we solve the Australian textile waste issue. Through our revolutionary process taking textile waste into a valuable product, we believe we can achieve our vision of true circularity. Thank you for listening.
Judges, you may ask questions. You've got 5 minutes to do so. And only judges can ask questions. If you show your hands, someone will come with a mic. I may have to come over the other side.
Is it on? Hi, great presentation, thank you. The source material you mentioned is cotton. What about blended materials and synthetics? Where does that fit into it?
I'm happy to take this on. So unfortunately with cotton and poly blends, they're incredibly difficult to separate, and the process that we're using requires 100% cotton. And so we can either source this cotton from 100% cotton textiles, or we can work in partnership with other Australian innovations that are processing cotton and polyester blends, and then they have that regenerated cotton that we can also use for the ACF product. But unfortunately, our solution only focuses on cotton waste, which still accounts for a third of the textile waste in Australia.
Well done, Monash. Great presentation. My question relates to channels to market for the ACF. How do you plan to get the ACF to people or organisations that are going to use it?
Yeah, so I think early on we'd really like to pilot with some of these small communities that are really suffering with low fidelity solutions to their wastewater, to really start to prove a use case and prove that our product is really creating tangible impact. And then once we can prove it on a much smaller scale, we like to go to some of the bigger sewage processing plants, these kind of people, and see if they're interested in an alternative and more sustainable solution to some of the more chemical processes that they're currently using.
Yeah, you've mentioned $300 million market for ACF. So who are the manufacturers and how are they going to react to your competition?
Yeah, well, we hope that as a sustainable alternative, ACF currently is a fairly well-known process, and it's, as we said, it's been carried out quite significantly. That's why it has such a large market size. But we're hoping by jumping in with a sustainable alternative, we can really start to take some of that market space. Maybe if you think back to sort of early on when solar panels started to jump into the space and start to take some of the sort of market space away from big energy providers, that's sort of where we see ourselves in entering into that market early.
Thank you, terrific presentation. It looked to me as if what you were producing was like charcoal. Is this kind of like a form of the way in which charcoal can be used to filter out things? Is that what's happening, or what happens to that black stuff that you produce, and how does it work towards fixing water problems?
Yeah, so I mentioned that the ACF is sort of in a fibrous sort of form. So normally they have these sort of tube-like shapes, and they kind of fill it in with what looks like charcoal, and it's sort of placed into the water and acts like a filter. So when you put it into like the wastewater, it has the material is quite porous, so it has a lot of like pores in it that enables it to all the pollutants that go through it like binds to the fibers, and that's how it works like that.
Kind of like a water bottle, if you imagine a filtration water bottle, but that on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
I'm interested in each end of the life cycle of the ACF. So who does the sorting at the charities to get your 100% cotton? And what happens at the end of the ACF, life of the ACF?
Sorting?
Sure, so I'll take the sorting side. So charity shops already sort their clothes into different buckets. So unusable can be sold in their stores and also can be recycled into rags. And so that element of end of life is sorted for us. In terms of sorting it into cotton, poly, wool, our solution thankfully works really hand in hand with another Australian innovation from Queensland called Blocktex. So they actually are working with charity shops to develop a handheld device which scans items and gives you the chemical composition of the cotton of the textiles. And so they're working with the same charity shops that we're also working with, which are Salvos and Vinnie's. And so that will enable us to sort it. And we've also talked to Salvos as well, who said they're happy to help out with that sorting process as well. Does someone want to take the end?
Just quickly on any unintended consequences of the actual production of the ACF.
Pardon? Yeah, I'll take that. So we're working, that's the reason we partnered with people like Monash, to really understand within this whole supply chain, are we doing more bad than good? And so far it seems like, no, everything we're doing is a net positive on the environment. And Monash has a lot of sort of chemical recycling processes, so anything that gets used in the process that may be a toxin in the environment is getting captured anyway, and we're pretty confident that we have a net positive effect. So, but it's definitely a big concern of ours to make sure.
Thanks.